First this morning, a new overnight, a man is critically injured after a shooting in Albuquerque. Police say they were called to the intersection of San Pedro and Central just before 10 by an anonymous tipster. When they got there, they say they found a 26-year-old man whose name's not been released, bleeding from a gunshot wound to the chest. He was taken to UNM Hospital in critical condition, and police are asking anyone who may have information that can help them in the investigation to call 242-COPS.
A lot of people are talking about this next story. Albuquerque taxpayers will have to fork out $200,000 because of the actions of an APD officer. Monday, a jury found Officer Russell Perea guilty of using excessive force when he roughed up Jerry Rodriguez. That guilty verdict also came with compensation for the victim for physical and mental injuries. It all started back in 2010 with the murder at this South Valley gas station. Police were looking for a Hummer with flames. Rodriguez owned a similar truck. His attorney says a group of officers went up behind him, grabbed him, threw him to the ground, and hurt his arm. Turns out Rodriguez was not connected to the murder.
He said that no matter what happened, he had had an opportunity to tell his story in court.
So you might remember Perea was the partner of Levi Chavez, a former officer who went on trial and was acquitted in the death of his wife, Tara. Perea was fired by the city after his story on what happened during the Chavez case did not add up. He fought back and a personnel board ordered he be reinstated. The city says Perea is still working with the Northwest Area Command. They are determining his future, though.
Developing this morning, the feds are taking a new approach to keep violent offenders locked up longer. This after career criminals like Andrew Romero put a spotlight on New Mexico's legal system. The U.S. Attorney's Office says it's expanding its Worst of the Worst program in a way to help ID repeat offenders and keep them off the streets longer. They're going to be hiring a liaison soon who will work with New Mexico police and prosecutors to keep an eye on repeat offenders, like Christopher Cook, who's accused of shooting an APD officer, and Andrew Romero, the man accused of killing Rio Rancho police officer Greg Benner, who some say should never have been on the streets in the first place. But through this program, other career criminals will get tougher federal sentences.
If you can get a mandatory minimum, let's say, for example, 15 years, that means that that individual will be out of the community.
In addition to the liaison, they're going to also train several assistant DAs throughout the state to work directly with the federal government part-time. Rio Rancho's mayor is calling for the public to stand up for Officer Benner tomorrow after a public funeral. People are asked to line the sidewalks along the procession route from the Santa Ana Star Center to Rio Rancho Police Headquarters. Someone has left dozens of American flags at Benner's memorial site that you can take along with you if you plan to attend the processional. KRQE is planning to live stream services tomorrow morning. For more information and a map of the processional route, you can search for this story in the KRQE News app.
One person is dead, another is in the hospital after a shooting in southeastern New Mexico. State police say a security guard was shot at the Human Services Department office. They tell us the suspect walked into the building in Anthony, shot the officer, then took off. Deputies did track him down in El Paso, where officials say he then killed himself. The security guard is in critical condition this morning. No names have been released at this time. We turn now to this. We have learned the fate of the man who shot at police during a 40-mile chase. A judge yesterday sentenced him to 12 years in prison. Last year, Chin Wan robbed a person at gunpoint at an ATM in Rio Rancho. He shot at police. They chased him all the way to Hema Springs. He was convicted of aggravated assault on a peace officer and armed robbery.
6:06, New Mexico's newest archbishop will be honored with an installation mass tomorrow. John C. Wester, the 12th Archbishop of Santa Fe, is replacing retiring Archbishop Michael Sheehan. He comes from Salt Lake City. The installation mass is scheduled for tomorrow at 2 o'clock at St. Francis Cathedral. Guests include one of Pope Francis's representatives. Seats for the public are limited. Stay with News 13. We're going to be streaming that tomorrow afternoon. You can find the details by searching for this story right now in the KRQE News app. Also in Santa Fe, 300 rosaries blessed by the Pope. They arrived in New Mexico yesterday, and they're going to be kept at the Hotel St. Francis in Santa Fe, where the public can view them. The rosaries will be available to buy starting at $35 next week. Some of the proceeds will benefit Cornerstones, which supports the preservation of mission churches in New Mexico.
Oh, that's pretty neat.
Yeah, very cool. And they're blessed by the Pope.
Absolutely.
6:07, it's been a hot button issue across the country, really. Vaccinations. Well, the CDC, I should say, says they're necessary to protect your kids. Nearly 2% of New Mexico kindergartners went unvaccinated in 2013.
Now, one Albuquerque local wants to change that, though. He's made an app he says will make you think twice about not getting your kids that shot. News 13's Catherine Mazzone is in the Newsplex with the details on this. Good morning, Catherine.
Good morning, Crystal. Now, technology can be a powerful tool. That's why one public health advocate wants to create an app for your phone to show you what you'd look like with a contagious disease.
I really saw how emotional people can respond to their beautiful selfie, then morphed into a disease of measles, smallpox. It could be whooping cough.
Hubert Allen founded the app Disease Morph. He's a contractor with the health department's Vaccinations for Children program, visiting hundreds of clinics a year. Allen says there is skepticism when it comes to vaccines. Some parents don't like the ingredients. Others think the medications cause harmful side effects. Allen says having worked in clinics across the state, he's found some people need a little persuading to get their kids vaccinated.
Something is going to help us push that extra 5 to 10% who are very skeptical, who didn't want to get the MMR, that's measles, mumps, rubella vaccine, to say, you know what? I really don't want to see my little kid or my little grandson look like this with measles if they can simply get a shot and be done with it.
Well, now Allen is looking to insurance companies and healthcare providers as investors so that he can get his product up and running off the ground and show you what you'd look like with diseases. Back to you.
All right, thanks, Catherine. We'll show you exactly how the app works. That's coming up in our next half hour. A live look at our nation's capital this morning, where just yesterday the president signed the United States Freedom Act into law. It restores key parts of the Patriot Act that expired earlier this week. Many know it as a surveillance bill. The bill will reform the NSA and how it acquires phone records. The Senate gave the bill the final approval yesterday. The measure revives and reshapes most of the surveillance programs put in place after 9/11. And just into our newsroom this morning, new facts out of Boston, where a man was gunned down by police yesterday.
That man was under surveillance by federal terrorism investigators, and today Boston PD says they've made a new arrest linked to that terror investigation. Police say officers approached 26-year-old Usama Rahim for questioning when he pulled out a military-style knife, lunged at the officers. They opened fire. A source tells CBS News Rahim has been under a 24-hour watch for about 3 weeks. No word as to what that man was plotting, according to investigators. New video is helping the Los Angeles Police Department investigate this, a hit-and-run crash. The biker in this video is Samuel Ayers. He says he pulled up to a BMW, saw the driver texting, and that's when he told that driver to stop. Afterward, Ayers says that driver got irate, tailgated him, honked at him, drove aggressively, and sideswiped Ayers in the end. Ayers says he probably shouldn't have cursed at the driver, but he doesn't think he deserved that reaction. Ended violently, unfortunately.
It sure did. Okay. And we start with some overnight news this morning. APD is investigating the shooting of a 26-year-old man at the intersection of San Pedro and Central last night. They say they were called out there just before 10 by an anonymous caller. Now, when they got there, they found the man, whose name has not been released, bleeding from a gunshot wound to the chest. He was transported to UNO Hospital in critical condition.
We can only hope that there is some video somewhere that can answer some questions.
All right, now police are asking anyone who might have information about this to call 242 cops. We turn now to this. The case against the Albuquerque mom accused of kicking her son to death is now on hold. The News 13 has learned there are serious questions about whether Cynthia Varela Casals is mentally competent to stand trial. Varela Casals is facing charges for kicking to death her 9-year-old Omari Varela in 2013. A judge has put the case on hold while she is evaluated further. If she is deemed incompetent to stand trial, that does not mean she'll go free. We checked, and if a judge finds Varela Casals to be a danger to society, she could be kept at the mental hospital until she's either competent enough to stand trial or potentially for the rest of her life.
Coming up on 6:33, a woman is in jail this morning accused of hitting a police officer with her car as she tried to escape. They say they were tracking Brianna Keck in a stolen car. They tried to pull her over at the Savers at Carlisle and Manal. They tell News 13 that Keck tried to get away, hit an officer with the car, then crashed into a patrol car. The officer's okay. Police eventually arrested her at a hotel on University. Police say this is the 5th time in 8 days suspects have tried to hit officers with cars. A wrongful death suit against the city of Albuquerque and an APD sergeant will move forward after a ruling in a federal appeals court. Investigators say former APD officer Adam Casals ran a red light in his patrol car 2 years ago, killing 21-year-old Ashley Browder. Her family has now filed a civil lawsuit. Casals tried to claim immunity, saying he was just doing his job that night, going after a drunk driver. But the appeals court rejected his claim, saying he was off duty and there was no proof that he was chasing anyone. Casals spent 90 days in jail for careless driving.
And we turn now to this developing story. Just yesterday, a federal judge gave the final okay on the agreement between the Department of Justice and APD. A DOJ review found the department had a pattern of using excessive force. The Albuquerque Police Officers Union issued a statement shortly after saying, quote, "Well, they may not agree, they accept the opinion of the court and will work to address their objections with the city." Now, you can read the full DOJ agreement on our website, krqe.com.
Happening today, the first of two public events to honor Rio Rancho police officer Greg Benner. Benner was shot and killed in the line of duty. A public visitation is scheduled to be held from 4 to 7 this afternoon at Daniel's Funeral Home on Sarah Road in Rio Rancho. Right now, the officer's body is being guarded around the clock by fellow officers. His funeral is set for 10 tomorrow morning at the Santa Ana Star Center.
And following the services at the Santa Ana Star Center, Officer Benner's body will be escorted to the cemetery. The public can pay their respects along the route there. They'll drive this route to the police department, where they will make a last call for Officer Benner before heading to a private burial. We will be there live all morning long, starting your coverage at 4:30. Happening today, you can help Officer Benner's family by sitting down for pizza. Pizza 9 is donating 10% of its sales today to fund set up for the officer. Now, they're guaranteeing a minimum donation of $3,000 for the fund.
As we mentioned a moment ago, News 13's covering that memorial service and the processional from start to finish, beginning at 4:30 a.m. right here on KRQE. We're also going to be live streaming the event when it begins at 10 a.m. For routes, funeral services, and visitation information, head over to the KRQE News app right now.
You know, and a lot of people want to be there to pay their, respects and their support. But if you can't, of course, we'll have you covered here.
Absolutely. It's touched a lot of people. One Albuquerque man has come up with an app that he says will encourage parents to vaccinate their kids.
So it's called Disease Morph, and it's designed to show you what you would look like with some of the world's most contagious diseases. News 13's Catherine Mazzone is in the Newsplex with all the details on this. Good morning, Catherine.
Good morning, Crystal. This public health advocate says parents who don't get their children vaccinated are afraid of what the medicine can do. Well, that's why he wants to stir emotion and make parents think twice about going without the shot.
There is some skepticism out there among people everywhere in the world, and I think that's a good idea. We need to be very skeptical about what we do with our body and what medicine does for us. But on the vaccination thing, a lot of research has gone into the safety of vaccines.
That's the app's founder, Hubert Allen. Take a look at how the app works. You take a selfie or a photo of a friend. You can then select the photo and adjust it through the app so that your face is all framed up. Now then comes the fun part. Give yourself measles or smallpox. It's the only disease that's been eradicated in the wild.
I had come to that stunning point that we are more attractive people because of vaccination. So emotionally, if we show people with the disease, it creates a very emotional response of, oh my gosh, like horrified.
While smallpox isn't around anymore, Hubert says it's important to remember the deadly nature of that disease. Back to you.
All right, thanks, Catherine. Now, Allen hopes to release the app by the end of this summer. We turn now to this. For the first time, we're hearing from James Holmes, a suspected shooter who opened fire in the Colorado theater.
In the chilling new video, Holmes describes how he carried out what he calls his mission.
Then I raised the shotgun and saw that people were getting up in the back left corner. So I shot up that direction. Then I threw the gun down and switched to the AR-15. I shot some with the handgun.
In the video played for jurors yesterday, Holmes also noted that he mostly shot at random but targeted those who tried to escape. When his rifle jammed, Holmes left, killing 12 people, injuring dozens of others. At least that's what he's accused of doing. He's pleading not guilty by reason of insanity, and jurors will determine if he deserves the death penalty.
We turn now to international news out of China, where the search continues this morning for hundreds of people still missing after their cruise ship capsized. It happened during a stormy weather Tuesday. Now, with a boat filled with elderly tourists, most of them, there's 450 on board. 14 survivors pulled from the water so far, including the captain. He's now being questioned. This could become China's deadliest maritime accidents in decades.
Check out this dramatic rescue of an officer and a man who ran to put out a car on fire. This was the officer who ran in here, only to find the man asleep in there while that car was engulfed in flames. It happened in South Carolina. Police say the man was extremely drunk, had no idea the car was on fire. Fire crews say if the officer had hesitated even for a minute, this could have been a whole different story. The driver's fine. He's now facing some hefty charges in all of that, though.
Wow, that's terrifying.
It sure is. Burst into flames there.